Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Dylan. Oh, wait, we got a face cam today. What's going on, guys? It's Dylan. Today I'm teaching you guys a tutorial on how to basically turn any, mainly video game, but you could use this in real life pictures, but mainly any video game scenario into a false 3D model of the scenario. Basically, what that means is it's going to look like you built it in a 3D program, but really it's just shapes and fake shadows in Photoshop. So I'm basically just going to be showing you guys how to do that today. You guys could use this for graphics designing, maybe put it in like a Twitter banner, edit somehow. I don't know, but I'm just going to teach you guys how to do it. So what you're going to want to do is first open up Photoshop clearly because that's the program we're using today. I usually like to keep a reference in the top right corner of the screen. You guys could clearly tell these aren't the same maps. This picture that you're looking at right here, I actually, I didn't make this one. I've made ones very similar to this, but this specific one on the screen right here, I did not make. I don't know who to give credit for because it was kind of on my computer. But yeah, so we're going to get rid of that, but that's what the finished project is going to look like. So I want to make one thing clear before this video starts. I'm going to be going through this as quickly as possible and speeding up some parts, and so it's going to be really rough. It's not going to look good. It's like really not going to look good. So don't expect that. This is just kind of rough detail. The more time you put into it, the better it's going to look, so just keep that in mind. So first things first is you're going to want to open up your picture that you're going to want to do. So normally with these situations, I'm using CSGO as an example, and most of the time what I've seen when people do this in CSGO is they won't do the whole entire map. They'll do like an area. So the first thing you're going to want to do is pick your area. So I'm just going to pretend that we're going to do like from here to here, from here, here. So just kind of, pick your area that you're going to want to do. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to cut it off there. There, to there, to there, and then like here, all the way to the ground. There we go. Alright, so I probably just sped that up on the screen. So now basically what we're going to do is make selection. This part here is kind of up to you and how you want it to come out. The feather radius you're always going to want to put to either 0 or 1 depending on if you're kind of trying to rush it or you're not going to be as precise. Definitely put the feather radius to 1, but it is going to give it kind of a feathered outline. So I'm going to put mine to 1 for the sake of I'm speeding through it and stuff. So mine's going to be at 1, but normally if you're going to take time and you want this to come out good, keep it at 0. So now that I've made a selection, I'm going to go to my layers tab, make sure that this background layer is selected. So then you're going to want to go to layer via copy. I usually do copy because if you do cut and you fuck up, then like you can't like redo it. So do copy, and then it's going to copy your layer, and then just go under here, click the little eyeball to remove it, and then that looks good. So this is going to be the little area that we're going to select. So we could go ahead and delete that layer right there. Delete, yes. Now let's get a background. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to minimize this, and this is like just a beginner's tutorial. So if you don't know the beginners to Photoshop, then you're going to want to learn all those first, because I'm kind of going to be speeding through this. So like if there's something that you see me do and you're like, I don't know how to do that, then you're on your own. So you're going to want to minimize it, and you're going to want to get your ruler tool. So move that out of the way, kind of center it up like that, and like that, and then go ahead and center this. Find the center point. There you go. It should lock into place. So now this is all centered. You get rid of the rulers now. So just grab them, slide them back over. Now pick a background color. So add a new layer. Add a new layer. Title that background. Move it to the back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to want to pick a color. I'm going to do like a bright orange, kind of like the other one was. So like that. Paint bucket. There we go. So now we got a bright orange, and now we're going to want to add a texture, but like a really small texture. So click texture, and then make the depth. Oh, it's really hard to get this looking good, but you just want like a really small texture on there, kind of like that. There we go. That's perfect. So like, see, there's like kind of a texture, but not really. So now we have like the basic steps done. Now we're gonna do all the complicated stuff. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to pick which area we want to start with. So for me, I'm gonna start with the this ground area right here, and each section where something changes, you have to start a new layer. So for instance, right here, this is a ramp, so we can only do like this area right here on the first shape. So what we're gonna do is come here and make a new layer, and then what I do just to make it a little easier is usually title the layer like bottom ground. And these could be confusing, but you should know what you're talking about when you're doing them. So basically just title it like bottom ground, and then pick a color. And now on the color, this is the part where it gets interesting. So what we're going to do is pick the eyedropper tool, and then eyedrop a color from the ground. So anywhere on the ground, right there. I'm going to pick that one, or probably the lighter shade right there. So just eyedrop and then click, and it'll automatically select that color for your paint. And then click the pen tool. Make sure always make sure you're selected on the right layer, and then start masking away the area. Like I said, I'm doing this really quick just to kind of give you guys an idea, but yeah, it looks about right. And then connect it, make selection, feather radius. You could do, I'm gonna do 0 for this video actually, just to show you guys what it looks like. So 0, come up here, make selection, save selection. Oh, I didn't mean to click save. Don't click save selection. I messed up right there. So now that you have the selection, you're going to want to come to the paint bucket tool, make sure that that color is selected, and boom. And then now you're going to want to come up here, deselect. And like I said, this is rough. You guys could see around these edges right here how it's like not that clean. If you were doing this with a lot more time, you'd be more careful not to miss stuff like that. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to click the pen tool again, restart. Now with our second area. So now our second area is gonna be right here. To about here is where the cutoff is. Come down here. Go all the way around the container. Click. Make selection. Make sure feather radius is 0. Okay. And then you want to click your eyedropper tool and select a color from the ground. Any color will work. Then you have paint bucket. Click up here. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Deselect, and then there you have that. Now I'm gonna move over to a part. I'm gonna do a little bit skip, and then I'm gonna show you guys how to do the shadows now that you basically have the simple stuff out of the way. Another thing to consider while doing this is that you could always zoom in and get a lot more detailed on the lines, like if you do this. And I messed up right there, so you could just do this. It's just one of those ways where you get a lot more detailed. And like I said, this will work in like video games like CS:GO, for instance, is what I'm using. But this, I guess, could also work like in any sort of real life environment. You could use this too. So something that I haven't been doing throughout this video that you might have realized is I'm not getting new layers. That's just because I'm just trying to speed through this. That it's really time consuming. So I'm not getting new layers. But you definitely, that's an important tip. You need to be clicking new layers when you're doing this, because you're going to need to be moving stuff around and adjusting stuff as you go, because it's not all going to line up properly. So just keep that in mind. You have to be making new layers for every shape. Okay guys, so now that I've done all that, you basically have a accurate representation of what this will look like, besides the fact that it'll look a little nicer. So one thing that you have to keep in mind is that right here, you're gonna always want to be doing this a lot, because this layer, when you're completely done filling everything in, the layer right here, the background layer, the actual picture, is gonna get deleted. So you're gonna end up with something like this, but finished. And if you zoom in, you could see all these orange cracks right here. That's where the making different layers comes into effect, because at the end you're going to come underneath of the brush and just kind of mask up all these areas to get the background color disappeared and make them look more real. And so now I'm going to show you guys how to do the shadows. This is the last step basically. It's honestly the easiest step. So let's bring this back in, and then right here we're going to want to take the opacity and turn it just about to 50, to where we can still see it a little, but it's basically gone. And then what we're going to want to do is so there's a huge shadow. Let's zoom out a little more than that. Alright, So there's a huge shadow right here. So now for the shadow, you don't have to do separately on like the ground and stuff. If the shadow touches, you could do it all in one hit. So let's just outline the shadow, really simple. Now the shadows are like kind of the final touch. Like if it doesn't look that good throughout the whole thing, once you do the shadows, you're gonna be like, wow, that made such a difference. So like I said, I just really simply did that. This one I'm actually going to do in a new layer because okay, so even for the sake of the video, I cannot do the shadows in the same layer or it just won't work. So you're going to want to make selection, feather okay, for the shadows the feather radius has to be 0. You cannot use 1 for the shadow or it's not going to look right. So now that that is selected, we're going to want to come right here back to the layer, the shapes layer, and you're going to want to set the opacity all the way back to 100. Now that we have our layer selected, we're going to want to zoom all the way out to fit on screen. We're going to want to come to our color selector, and this time we're just going to want to find like a shadow color, like a really dark gray. Click OK. Make sure that you're on the shadow layer, so I'm just going to rename this shadow, fill it in, and then come up here, deselect. So now you're probably thinking like, wow, that looks really shitty. Well, yeah, because you're going to want to come here, come to opacity, and then you're going to want to hit the opacity to about, I don't know, this is really just all from your eye, whatever looks best at the time. So I'm just going to set it to like 34 for now. And then now you could see it added that shadow. So that's basically it. So now I'm just gonna remove this for the show you guys the finished product. So this is the finished product just for the sake of the video. This tutorial is for people who already know what they're doing with Photoshop. So if you're a complete beginner, then this tutorial is not going to be for you. But I hope that the people who know what they're doing with Photoshop got the idea from this video, and you guys are going to make some cool art. If you do, comment like the links or whatever to the art, and I'd be happy to see it. And if you got any ideas from this video, and you ended up making something from it, be sure to link it to me, and I'll definitely check it out. That's gonna be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to see more tutorials when it comes to Photoshop, I have plenty. I could do almost anything in Photoshop. So if you guys have any specific Photoshop suggestions that you want to see tutorials on, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.